Cotton.
General Caine, congratulations on your nomination, and thank you for your 34 years of service. Thank you also for your service at times in the intelligence community, where your reputation is as strong as it is in the Department of Defense. Let's continue on the theme of Senator Shaheen's question about providing your candid military advice. I think, as the chairman and Senator Reid pointed out, a lot of people don't understand the chairman of the Joint Chiefs is not in the chain of command. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
By law, your role is the principal military advisor. So if the president makes a decision on this, that, or the other policy or operation about this, that, or the other country, that goes from him to the Secretary of Defense down to some other commander, say the CENTCOM commander or the Secretary of the Army or what have you. You're on the side giving advice to everyone, but you're not actually carrying out decisions in the chain of command.
That's correct, Senator.
And I think Congress gave the chairman that role because we wanted someone who was free from those day-to-day demands of operational or managerial duties to provide that candid military advice. And as Senator Shaheen said, it's important that you provide that advice even when you think the principal doesn't want to hear it, the Secretary of Defense or the NSC or the President. But I think you said in your opening statement that you were an unusual or an unconventional nominee. Which was it?
I think it was unconventional.
Unconventional,
Senator.
okay. I agree with that. I think most people would as well. You don't strike me as the kind of guy who has been angling for this job for 34 years. Is that a fair statement?
That would be a fair statement, Senator.
And did you expect to get this job as recently as, I don't know, 3 or 6 months ago?
I did not, Senator.
So is there any reason to think that you're not going to be providing your candid and best professional military advice, even and maybe especially when you've gotten wind, say, a little birdie has tipped you off that maybe the Secretary or the President doesn't want to hear what you have to say?
Senator, no. And, I went to VMI, where I lived in the new barracks for 4 years and looked out on a statue of George Caleb Marshall for 4 years. And, sir, if I failed to provide my candid advice to the Secretary, the NSC, or the President, I think General Marshall would climb out of his grave and hunt me down.
Good, thank you. Because I think every president, every NSC, every Secretary of Defense needs that, especially from a chairman. Not to give them their candid advice when it's welcome, but even when they know it's unwelcome. Now, as you said, though, you're an advisor. You're not a decider. You're not a commander. Once the Secretary, in some cases, or the President probably in most cases, has made the decision, then you're on the side making sure that decision is going to be carried out by the relevant commanders, right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Let's look at something specific in this area now, and that's the threat of Iran's nuclear program. By some estimates, they could be just weeks away from having at least testable, if not workable, nuclear devices, maybe as few as a couple years away from having missiles that could hit us here in the United States. The President has said repeatedly that he wants a peaceful resolution to this crisis. But he's also said, I think as recently as last week, quote, if they don't make a deal, there will be bombing, end quote. He said for at least a decade I've known him that Iran cannot be allowed to get a nuclear weapon. Do you agree with the President's assessment that Iran cannot be allowed to get a nuclear weapon?
I do, Senator.
And do you agree that because of their missile programs, especially the flimsy cover of the space launch program, that this is not just a threat to our troops in the region or Israel or our Arab friends in the region? This could be an imminent and existential threat to the United States itself in just a few short years.
Senator, I think that's an accurate statement.
If the President asks for military options to support what he has said publicly, that if Iran is not willing to make a deal, that there will be bombing, do you commit to provide him the best and candid advice you can about viable military options and the likely consequences of each?
Senator, I think that's what the job of the Joint Staff is to do, is to provide a range of options for the President to consider and then allow him to select whatever those options will work best for him.
Thank you. And finally, there's some hysteria about the prospect of the President ordering these strikes, or someone like you in uniform providing him advice, that it's going to lead to another forever war or another endless war. Are you aware of operations, maybe operations against Iran like the tanker wars in 1988, in which the forceful but discriminate application of military power did not lead to a forever war or an endless war, but rather led to peace and stability?
Yes, sir. Those examples in our history do exist.
Maybe the Qasem Soleimani strike in 2020 as well that caused Iran to pull in its horns for the rest of President Trump's first term. Thank you, General Caine.
Thank you, Senator.
You can answer that question verbally, Senator Caine. I noticed you nodded, General Caine, you nodded your head.
Yes, sir. I wasn't sure exactly what the question was, but I agree with you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator Cotton, and thank you, General.